So good morning, good afternoon. What day is it? It's Thursday, Blur's Day. Welcome to the April edition of the Women in Technology virtual group. We are really glad that you have decided to spend maybe your lunch hour with us today. Our motto, encourage, energize, and empower. Find a mentor, be a mentor, and build a strong network for women. The bulk of the attendees on the call today appear to have male names, so I want to say that you actually can be a mentor to women. You can be an ally at work every day as well, so don't miss that opportunity. We have two sponsors, Century One and Redgate. It is an embarrassment of riches. And they will be who provides 2 Amazon or Visa gift cards at the end of the session. I'll pick 2 people from the attendee list. You can always follow us on YouTube at SQL Pass TV. Just look for the PassWit hashtag. Always check out our homepage, wit.pass.org. Join the virtual chapter from the Pass homepage. And that way you'll get our newsletter every month, which is always chock full of amazing things, great stories. Kathy does a fantastic job there. And some great resources and where women are speaking and what they're doing. We like to highlight women in the data platform. You can always follow us on Twitter at @pass_wit and follow and use the PassWit hashtag when you want to highlight something that you see women are doing in tech. A few upcoming sessions that have women speakers, including one today from the performance virtual group, SQL Server Performance Investigation and Monitoring. I actually do not know what time that one is, but I would imagine it's soon. So if you're interested in that, you're going to want to check that out. Next week, we have Notebooks 101 with Azure Data Studio. And then Erin Stellato is a busy woman in May with a few sessions. Pass Summit sent an email out this week. If you're a member of Pass, you should have gotten it, talking about Pass Summit 2020, that their plan right now is to still move forward. It's not until November, but that they're keeping an eye on things and they will monitor the situation and transition to a virtual event if they need to. If you are already registered, you will be refunded the difference in cost. The call for speakers is currently open, and it is open through April 23rd. So if you haven't gotten your session submitted, you should probably go ahead and do that. You have about a week to get that done. There are a lot of virtual groups. Now that you're stuck at home and have some time for free learning, go to pass.org, log in. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see a link that says My Groups. Go join as many as you think you're interested in. Worst case scenario, you get 1 or 2 emails a month telling you what the session is. And if you're not interested in it, you don't have to attend. If you're looking for a new career, or if you're recruiting technical talent, Pass has a careers interface that you can use to find and load jobs. Next month, we have Julie Cosmarno, Notebooks 101 with Azure Data Studio. This is an absolutely fantastic session. If you're not familiar with notebooks at all, or even just have a passing knowledge of notebooks, this is absolutely the session for you. I promise if you're a DBA, it can make you better at your job. And then in June, Kathy is going to be interviewing Gail Shepard, who is the Microsoft Corporate Vice President. She's technically my boss's boss. She's very nice. I really, really like her. Professional and knows what she's doing. Microsoft's lucky to have her. Today, we have Shabnam Watson using Power Apps in Power BI reports, enabling writeback. And I am located in Atlanta, as is Shabnam, so we're both active members of the Atlanta MDF user group. But she is a business intelligence consultant and volunteers with me to help run SQL Saturday Atlanta. So I'm really glad to have her today. And Shabnam, I am going to turn things over to you if you are ready to go.
I'm ready.
There you go.
Okay, one moment, please. So do you see my screen?
I do.
Okay, great. Okay, let me get the PowerPoint presentation started. All right. Do you still see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ree, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I hope wherever you are, you and your family are in good health and staying safe. Thank you for joining us today. As Ree introduced me, I am a BI consultant. I've worked with Microsoft SQL Server family of products for 20 years now. During this time, my focus has been on analysis services and Power BI. Recently, I've been working with Power Apps, the Power Apps Visual in Power BI, and then Power Apps. And I have been fascinated how easy it is to create an app in Power Apps. I have a .NET developer background. I started working as a .NET developer, writing applications against SQL Server. And having a developer background, I really appreciate all the work that has been done in Power Apps to make it possible to create apps with just drag and drop and very little code. And that's been the inspiration behind this session. The material for this session you can find on my blog post. The link is up on the screen, and the material is posted on my GitHub. If you go to my blog post, I have an entry for this session that walks you through some of the material that I'm going to show you, and then that has a link to the GitHub repository if you're interested to download the sample code. This session is geared towards someone who is new to Power Apps. It doesn't include much of a Power BI development, although we're going to talk very briefly about Power BI table storage modes as it's relevant to this Power Apps visual. So we're going to focus on Power Apps Visual, and Power BI, and how to get a Power Apps app in Power BI to refresh a page. So we're going to go through, I have a few concept slides. We're going to go through them, talk a little bit about Power Apps, Power BI, and how they integrate together. And then I'm going to switch to demos, and I'm going to show you how to create a Power App from Power Apps Studio based on a SQL Server table, and then I'm going to show you how to create a Power BI report from Power BI side and add an app from there and do the same thing, same source, same table, and then we're going to compare the two and see which one works, which one does not work when it comes to automatic page refresh in Power BI. So Power Apps is a web-based business application development environment. It works by dragging and dropping elements onto a canvas. So you start with a blank canvas, and then you can drag and drop labels, buttons, forms. There's very little coding involved. Most of the work is done in the background by the Power Apps developers for you. The code that you write, it's very similar to Excel functions. It doesn't look like real code. If you ever wrote like .NET or Java or Visual Basic, any of those programming languages that you work with, this is a lot easier to work with. And something that's really nice about Power Apps is that if you go to the website, it gives you so many template apps that you can start with. So you don't have to start from a blank app and learn how to add a button to it and how to put the formula in there. You can start from a template app and use that as your model, and then create your new app based on that. There is a really good help section on the website that's kept up to date, and it's very accurate. You can follow the instructions without any modifications, and you can get apps up and running. Now, Power Apps is a multi-platform environment. It gives you a multi-platform capabilities. So when you create an app, you can get to it from you can get to it from the web, you can get to it from mobile devices, and that's really important because when it comes to integration with Power BI, you have some people, some users who they see a report on perhaps a mobile device, as it's more common these days. And then once they see the report, they want to perhaps update something, but they want to do it from within the Power BI. They don't want to go and pull up an external link and go there and do data entry. They want to do everything from one place. And this integration of Power Apps with Power BI makes it possible. So when you create an app, when you publish it, you can go to your cell phone, for example, and you can go to the App Store and download this application. If you just look for Power Apps application, once that's downloaded on your phone, then you can log into it with your account, and then you will see the list of all the apps that have been shared with you. So it's really easy to do this. Now, Power Apps, in order to get Power Apps to work, you do require a license. Just because you have a Power BI license, it doesn't mean you get a Power Apps license. The licensing is different. I have the link here if you want to get more details, but at the very high level, there's two ways. So you can either get a license for a single app. It's $10 per user per month, but you only get, it's per app. Or you can get unlimited apps, and that's $40 per user. Now, you can get a free trial started for 30 days. So if you're just learning, you're testing it out, you can start a 30-day trial to get started. Or if you want to continue development and testing, you can use the community plan. And the community plan is what I have. And it gives you a lot of features and it doesn't expire, but it's just for internal use and testing purposes. And furthermore, there are different levels. So there is, as you can see on the screen, I have Plan 2. There is something called Plan 1. So as you're working with the Power Apps, it will inform you, for example, if a feature you're using is available in the next level up, it will give you the option of upgrading to that appropriate plan. So the other side is Power BI report. So you create a Power BI report for your end users. They want to get insights from data. It's very easy. If you have a model, you've modeled your business entities in a fashion where people can drag and drop and create their reports to provide self-service BI, and it's very powerful at that. So when you create a Power BI report, most of the reports, they contain a semantic model of your data and a report, so they're all together, they're all inclusive. Majority of reports are like that. So in the model part of the report, where you build a semantic model, when you define how different tables relate to each other, you have a choice every time you add a table to your model to decide whether its data come across from the backend, or if you want to leave it in the backend. So you have two choices: import and direct query. Import means all the data from your source data comes into your Power BI file, and it is the preferred choice. So most cases you should choose import, because the data is stored in Power BI all in memory, compressed column by column. It does a tremendous job of compressing data, and that's the fastest, best performance you can get out of Power BI is when your data is sitting in memory in Power BI engine. On the other hand is direct query. So direct query says you leave your data in the back end, you just keep the definition of it in Power BI. So users can still drag and drop, but every drag and drop results in a SQL query, for example, when your backend is a SQL server and goes into the backend. Now, direct query has very specific use cases. It's for when you have either so much data that is not going to fit in memory, or when you have low latency requirements. With the case where you have too much data that doesn't fit in memory, you have to be careful. You have to be absolutely positive that you have followed all best practices. And after that, if your data still does not fit in memory, then use direct query. So follow best practices as in only bringing the columns you need. Make sure you've trimmed the, for example, date time columns, you've trimmed the time part, you've split them. Once you've done all that and it still doesn't fit, okay, you can use direct query if it doesn't fit in memory. The other use case of direct query is the near real time. So someone wants to update the backend data and your users need to see the results immediately. They cannot wait for a refresh on the Power BI data set. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The scenario where someone updates data using an app and the results needs to be reflected back in the Power BI report immediately with a page refresh. Now, you don't have to choose import or direct query for all the tables in your model. You can choose that storage mode per table. The table that we're going to update, it must be in direct query for this whole scenario to work. Now, when you go to Power BI, Power Apps Visual is now a default visual. If you read some of the older blog posts, they may tell you that you need to go to the market, you need to import it, or you need to go to the market. That's no longer the case. It's available as one of the default visuals. And this visual has a function, enables a function called Power BI integration.refresh. And you're going to see this on in the Power Apps when we create an app in a few minutes. And that's what makes it possible for the refresh part to work. Now, Power Apps, they've been available in Power BI for a long time. And so you could create an app and you could pass context to it from Power BI and it could do some stuff for you. So it could update data for a while. It could have been doing that for a while. It's just that the page refresh part is the more recent one within the last year, where you update, it refreshes the page after the update, so your user does not have to click on refresh. So that's the new part of it that we're going to talk about here in particular. So this is how it works. You have a visual in Power BI, you have a report with a set of visuals on it, and someone clicks on, for example, a bar chart. They choose one of the bars. Then that visual passes context-aware data to Power Apps Visual. So for example, if you just choose the bikes category, it's only going to send the orders for the bikes category to the visual. So your visual interacts with other visuals, just similar to the cross-visual filtering that happens in regular in Power BI. Once that happens, let's say you have an app that is allowing the user to update the data. So you can say, okay, for all the orders that are in this bike category, I want to increase the order amount by 1%. You can do that by creating a Power Apps. Once that's done, the back end updates, and then this new function of the Power BI integration refresh will be triggered, and then it will update the page for you automatically. So at this point, I'm going to switch to demo. If there are any questions, so far, I can stop for a few moments and answer them.
The only question that we had so far was asking for the website that had the handout, so I shared with them your blog page.
Okay, great. And I will post the PDF of this later today to the same page. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go and switch to demo. All right, so a little bit of background for the data. Let's first take a look at the data that we're working with. I'm working with the AdventureWorks sample database. On my blog post, I have a link to where you can download this AdventureWorks sample database if you don't know where to get it. And I also have the script that would create the one table that I'm working with. So I have created a table called fact small sales, and this table is based off of, gets populated from fact internet sales. Now, this table, I have intentionally simplified it. So it has the product name, it has the product subcategory name, and the customer name in it to keep this demo simple. So I'm going to work with only one table. It's possible for you to work with more than one table in Power Apps. I'm not going to do that today. So I've created a table and I've inserted 1,000 rows from internet sales, fact internet sales, into the table. And I've done a join with product and product subcategory and customer to bring in the names. So I have the product name, I have the product subcategory name, and the customer name here. So if I show you a few rows from the table, this is how it looks like. Sales order number and sales order line number. These two are the primary key of this table together. Again, you can work with a table that does not have a primary key on it. You just have to do more work. The one scenario that I'm going to show you out of the box, it requires a table to have a primary key. And then we have product name, subcategory, customer name, and a sales amount and order date. So this is the data that I'm going to be working with. All right, so how do we get to Power Apps? In order to get to Power Apps, you can go to this link, make.powerapps.com, and depending on if you've used it before or not, you may see a slightly different scenario than what I have. And here's the Learn link. You can go to the Learn link, and I recommend that you follow this Get Started guide if you've never been here before. There's a series of really nice tutorials here. The first one is called Create a Canvas App in Power Apps. This will get you started, and you'll have an app running in no time. It's just unbelievable how quick it is. It's going to show one of the examples that I'm going to show you. Okay, so I'm going to close this and go back here and go to Create. So you can start from a blank app, or you can start from one of the common data sources. If you start from one of the common data sources, it will put a framework for you in place already. And it's very helpful when you're first getting started, right? So I'm going to click on Excel Online to just show you one of the example apps that they have in the tutorial that it will create for you. But before I do that, I just have to make this a little bit smaller, pull it in my secondary screen because it's going to ask for some credentials. So I'm going to pull this to the other screen, just put my credentials in, and I will bring it back in one moment. Okay, so here we go. I just click on Excel Online, and it's going to take me to my OneDrive, and I choose my Excel file and click on Connect, and then I'm going to bring it back for you to see what's happening. So all I did was I browsed to my file and I selected it. I'll say skip. And now this is the Power Apps Studio. So now we're in the Power Apps Studio. And let's see what it created for us. There's a very nice zoom feature down here where I can zoom in. So it has created an app, and it has pulled in some of the information from the Excel file. So this Excel file is available if you follow one of the tutorials. It has flooring information, so carpet, what category it is, what the customer said, what's the price, and all that. It has created 3 screens for us: a browse screen, a detail screen, and an edit screen. Okay, so this app, as you can see, it's fully functional. It's almost the point where you don't really need to do any more editing to it. So I'm going to say play, and now I can see my app. And this is how the app would look like if right now I download on my cell phone. So you can pick an item from the gallery. It will take you to the detailed screen, and you can click on edit. This is taking you to the edit screen. So it's a form at the very end of it. And you can change this price from here. You can make this 900. And if you were to run this on your cell phone, the moment you do click on this one, it will actually enable the camera on the cell phone so you can take a picture. And this is really cool because you can take a picture and upload it, and someone else who's using the same app, they can see the results immediately. So as you can see, the price updated. I can go back, and if I were showing the price here, I would have seen it updated. And it also has some other features. So it has a search built in, it has sorts built in, and you can also add new items. So this is a really cool app to use as a model when you're starting new apps. All right, so I'm going to say close this. And I'm not going to go through the details of this here. I'm going to do that with a SQL data source because that's what we're going to use. But in general, when you get the Power Apps to create an app for you from a source, a data source, this is the structure it creates. It creates a browse screen, a detail screen, and an edit screen. Okay, so I'm gonna close this one. I'm gonna leave. And I'm gonna do the same thing, but this time from SQL Server, okay? So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna pull this away for just one moment so I can put my credentials in to my secondary screen, and I'll come back to that. So I just have to put my Azure SQL Server connection there and my database name, and it will take me there to the database. And once I see a list of tables, and I can just pick fact small sales, and then I will bring the screen back to you. So it's doing the same thing. Now it's building an app for me. So this time we're going to go through some of the features of how the different screens work together. Okay, so I'm going to click on skip, and let's zoom in a little bit. And let's take a look at the pieces of each screen. Again, this is a fully functional app right now. If I run it, I can pick one item, and I can go and I can edit it. So I can make this smaller, submit, go back, and that price changed. Now, let's look at the app, the browse screen. So the main component that's on this screen is what's called a gallery, this item here. This is a gallery. A gallery shows a list of items, and it has one important property that fills up the rows, and that's called items. So any component you pick in Power Apps has a set of properties, and that's how you define behavior. You can get to the properties after you select it, either from this menu here, so you can look at the items, you can look at height and other features, or you can use what's on the right-hand side, so you can change properties from here. You'll find that some things are easier to do from one side versus the other side, so whatever you feel more comfortable is going to work. So a gallery has a data, has items. In this case, you see that it's getting it from fact sales, right? And all this extra code around it is for the search box to work and for the sort order to work. If you didn't have these two features, you wouldn't need that. So you see that sort by column. So if you take all of that out and you just leave the fact small sales, this is going to work without those features. So that's the items. The gallery has an item. Now you notice that it has only picked 3 things from our table. The table had more columns. So if I go to the layout of the gallery from here, I can change the layout. So by default, it picked title, subtitle, and body. I can choose a different layout. That's one way to change the fields. The other way is if you pick the first card of the gallery and you make changes to it, everything else changes. So the first card is what you work with, everything else will mimic. So I can change the background color of this to light green, and everything else will mimic. I can pick this one item, and I can change its font size to a bigger font size, and then that will reflect in the rest of the gallery items as well. So this is our gallery. It has the first card that we're working with. It has a set of fields. The card has fields, so I can go to edit, and you can see that right now it has 3 fields picked up. If I want to change one of these, I can do that. So I can say, instead of the product name, for example, you can show the sales amount, and now that's the sales amount. And that's the modified number that will show here. The other thing I can do is, it's very easy. I can see Control-C, Control-V, copy and paste. One more time. And each one of these has this item, has a this item property on its text property. So I can say this item dot, and I want to bring back the product name. So now I have the product name. So I can modify each one of these. So it's easy to let it create some of the fields for you, and then you can go and modify it. And this one, for example, I want it to be sales order number or sales number. There we go, sales order number. And now I have sales order number here. So we have a gallery of items. It's getting its list of data from the table, from SQL table at this point. Now, how do we go to the other screens? We have a secondary screen. We want someone to choose an item and go onto the detail screen. That is done with the onSelect property. So I'm going to choose the first card. I'm going to look at onSelect. OnSelect is navigating to detail screen. Now, the onSelect property, let me go back to it one more time. Gallery, onSelect, there we go. The navigate function takes a screen as its destination, and it has a second parameter that defines how you want the transition between the screens happen. Do you want it to slide out? Do you want it to disappear? If you ever work with PowerPoint presentations where you have transitions between different graphics, if you use animations in there, it's exactly the same thing. So there's a bunch of features, but none, it just means one disappears and the other one appears almost immediately. You don't see the one sliding out or disappearing. Okay, so we go to detail screen 1, which is here. Now, detail screen 1 has a form on it. You see that this is a form, and the form, there are two kinds of forms. There is an edit form and a display form. This is a display form because nothing is editable, okay? And regardless of what kind of form it is, it gets its items. It has a date, it has an item, and the item is set to browser one browse gallery one dot selected. It means that when you get to this form, it's going to be pre-populated by whatever was selected in the browser gallery. And once you're here, if you click on this one, it's going to take you to the edit screen. It's going to take you to the edit screen on, which is the last screen here. So we're going to go here. It's a form, and this time the form is an edit form. So if you were to insert a form into here onto this screen by yourself, you would have picked an edit form. And an edit form, again, has it has two properties. One is items, which is what populates it, which we want it to be browser, the browse gallery one selected item. And the other important property is its data source. The data source for a form is where it's going to write data to. So it's connected to fax small sales. Now, you can see that there is 2 stars here. That means that it's recognizing that those are the primary key of the table, okay? And you can go here and click on this check mark and see how it's saving. Now notice how short this formula is: submit form, edit form. That's all it takes for you to write back to that SQL table. It takes care of everything in the background for you. Now, it doesn't do any error handling. That's up to you to figure out, when you create more complex apps to deal with it. But if you're writing back to a table that has a primary key, this is all you need. If you're working with more complex scenarios, you can use the patch function. Okay, so this is one app, and I'm gonna leave this open here, and we're gonna go to Power BI and create a similar app from the Power BI side and see what's different over there. Okay, so I'm gonna go to this Power BI desktop. I'm gonna go to my recent sources, connect to the same database, and choose fact small sales. I'm going to click on load. Usually bad idea to click on load right away. You got to go to transfer data. Make sure you don't bring in what you don't need. Okay, here it asks you what the storage mode of the table should be. Should it be an import or direct query? For the purpose of this demo, we're going to choose direct query because, again, we want the backend changes to be reflected immediately with the page refresh. So I'm going to choose direct query. It's going to bring in the table. I know that it's in direct query because there's no tab here to view the tables. And there's only one table in here. So let's create a quick report. So I'm going to pick sales amount. And I'm going to drag and drop product subcategory here. Okay, I'm going to put a card here so we can see the total sales amount as we update data. I'm going to put a table visual at the bottom, and I'm going to put sales order number, customer name, product subcategory, and sales amount here. And now we have a report. And there is the visual. And if you click on it, it looks like it's going to work. But when it comes to the Power BI page refresh, it's not going to work properly. So we're not going to use it here. This is very important. We're going to publish this first, and then we're going to open it from the service. So I'm going to call this A. So it shows up first in my list. Choose my workspace, publish. And while this is publishing, I'm going to go back to Power BI service. And there it goes. I'm going to open it from here, go to edit report, and I have the same visual. Now from here, if I add the visual and I configure it, it's going to work. I choose a set of fields for it. And now this is another crucial step. It asks me whether I want to create a new app or choose an existing app. It's very tempting to go and choose the app that we just created, but that's not going to work. If you choose a new app, it's always going to work. If you choose an existing app, it will only work for an existing app that you previously created from Power BI service. So this app that we're going to create now, if I save it later on, I can reuse it in a future Power BI report from the service. But this other app that we created, it's not going to integrate properly. So I'm going to click on Create New, and it's going to take me to the Power Apps Studio again. And while you're working on the app, if you keep the Power BI page open and the app open, you can go back and forth. So now you can see that this time it only created one screen. It didn't create all the 3 screens for us. It just created one screen, and the layout of the gallery, it only picked one item. So I'm going to go and change the layout real quickly. So I'll do this so it makes it a little bit bigger. And let's zoom in. And I'm going to make this similar changes that I did last time. So I want to bring in just the price, sales amount, and let's make it bold. Okay. And okay, so now we have a gallery. We have just one form, right? How do we get the rest of it? How do we get the rest of it to work? Notice there's something different here. Notice how it says Power BI integration. This is what you want to show up. If you don't have this and you get to here, you haven't followed the correct path. Now, this is a screenshot of how the other one looks like. See, there was no Power BI integration. Now I'm going to go and create the second screen. I'm going to say second screen form. This is kind of shortcut. It creates an edit form for me. So I'm going to jump to the edit form. And to connect this right now, remember, we have to connect the form to the SQL table so it knows where to write data to. So even though we arrive here from Power BI, we still have to tell it where it's going to write the data. This part is not done automatically. So you can do it by either clicking on here, or you can click on the data source and add a data source. This is the part where I'm going to pull this window again in the other one because it's going to ask for credentials, and I'll bring it back one moment. So similar to before, I'm just going to choose a SQL data source. And I'm going to put in my Azure SQL Server connection string and my AdventureWorks database name, and click on Connect and choose a table. So as soon as it's done that, I can bring this back. And here we go. So now I'm going to choose fact, small sales, and connect. So now we're connected. You see that it says fact, small sales, and I can edit fields. I can go add, and I'm going to add sales order line number, customer name, product subcategory, order date, and sales amount. The order that you add these is the order that are going to show up on the screen. You can, of course, change them later. You can change different fields so that they're view only, they're required, you can all that. So we almost got the same screen as before. So I'm going to say change the title, edit, and it needs to be in double quotes. It's sales order. So that's our title. But if you've noticed, the form right now is empty. So how do we get it to fill up? We pick the form, and its data source is a table, but we set its item to gallery 1 dot selected. So by default, the first one is selected. So now the form is populated, right? So we have data in the form. Now we got 2 icons we got to take care of. It looks like it's already put in the formula for you. So this will write back to the SQL table. And this one doesn't do anything. So what I want to do in this case, we only have 2 screens, so I can just say back. We will go back, similar as navigate to screen 1. And here, when it submits the form, so we write the data, but then we want to do a couple of more things. We want to go back, right? When we're done editing, we want to go back, but we also want to do this. This is the key. Power BI integration.refresh. If you type this and it gives you a squiggly line, or if the IntelliSense is not coming up, that means you most likely arrived here from Power BI Desktop. You may have forgotten and went ahead and got here from Power BI Desktop. Okay, so this screen is complete. Now, before I go back to the first screen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this label and this one, I'm going to highlight them, copy them. It's really easy to copy visuals between the screen. So I'm going to go here and say paste. That way I get a nice header here. And for this header, I'm going to say, see if I can edit this. There we go. Sales orders. So now I got the sales orders. One last thing remains, and that's how we're going to arrive from this screen onto the next one. So if I look at this gallery, if I look at the gallery and I look at the on select, so I can either do it from here or I can do it from the icon. So I can say on select, navigate, we want to go to screen 2. And of course, if you're making this into a complete application, you will give your components meaningful names so you don't have screen 1, screen 2. So this is a fully functional app right now. We can test it out here. Can submit, it will save, it will go back, and that's what we want. And out of here, okay. So this app is complete. And all I gotta do for it to start working on Power BI side is to save it. So I'm gonna call this app 1 and go back to save, app 1 save, save. So I have to save it. Once it's saved, the next step is to share it. I, as the app owner, will get it automatically. But if you're sharing with other people in your organization or your tenant, you must do this. So you must go to the share and share it with the group that you want it to be shared. So you can type, for example, everyone in your tenant. You can share it, and that's done. Okay, so now I'm going to go back. I still got this app open. I'm going to works. So for example, I'm going to choose, let me close the filters to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm going to choose this first one. It comes pre-populated. I'm going to add a couple of zeros here, and I'm going to change the category, subcategory. I'm going to change this into a new subcategory. I'm going to click submit item. So if we did everything properly, the screen updates. So you see now I have this new category of test bikes. Let me go back to it one more time, add a couple more zeros, update it, and now I got my test bikes category. So from this point on, if you want to make updates to the app past this point, you should open it from your report. So you open your reports and then you edit the app from here. It will take you to the Power Apps Studio. That's especially important if you are adding fields. So if you make changes to the fields that the app is receiving, you must follow this path. And when you have this open and you have the Power Apps open, if you make changes here and you save it and you go back here and it doesn't reflect automatically, what I recommend you do is save your report and come back. Sometimes there's a little bit of caching that goes on that you may not see the change here reflected back immediately. But this overall is just shows you what we talked about, where you make a change and it reflects back immediately. What this cannot do is it cannot pass context back to your Power BI report. So you cannot select something from here and filter your report based off of it. Okay, and let's go back to the slides real quick and do a quick review. Okay, here we go. So remember that the order that you do things is very important for the page refresh specifically to get to work. You must publish to the PBI service first, then you open it from the web interface and edit, then you add the visual, then you add the fields to it, follow the instructions on the visual. The visual has a very good set of instructions on it, step by step, that tells you in case you forget. And then you make changes to your app, you save it, you share it, and then you come back to Power BI service and it will work properly. There are some limitations around this visual. Remember, it must be edited from the service after you make changes to the field. It cannot trigger a refresh of Power BI reports from the desktop. I've made this mistake before where I downloaded my report after modified in the service. You download it, you want to keep a local copy of it, and you open it up and the refresh does not work. Remember, it's not because it's broken, it's just that in the Power BI desktop, the refresh feature does not work. We talked about this, that it cannot filter your Power BI report. It cannot pass context back to it. It is not currently supported in Power BI report server. And some of the features are supported in certain browsers, some are not. So Edge and Chrome are fully supported. Depending on the PC, I've had a slight different experience between Chrome and Edge. So if you run into an issue with one, try the other browser to see if it works better for you. And the Power BI integration.refresh, which is kind of the heart of this presentation, remember, you have to create a new app or use an existing app that has been previously created from the service. If you have existing apps that you did not create from Power BI service, the refresh is not going to work for them in them. Now, what you can do is you can open one of your old.
I think I just lost audio for you, Shabnam.
Apps and then create a new app, and the
Shabnam.
Power Apps Studio is very easy. Oh, you hear me?
We lost you for a second, so if you could go back about 30 seconds. Just to be sure.
Hey, you hear me?
I can now, yes.
Okay, hold on. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Do you hear me?
I can.
Be good? Okay, sorry about that. Where did you lose audio? On display?
Yes, on this slide.
Okay, so I'll start from the beginning of this slide. So the key to getting the integration, the Power BI integration, the page refresh to work is that you start from a new app or use an existing app that has been previously created from the service. When I was learning this, I was confused by some of the videos that were online. Sometimes I would see someone use an existing app and it worked, and some other people will say an existing app does not work. The reason is because there's a difference in where the existing app came from. If it's something that was created from Power BI service, you can reuse it and the refresh will work. If it's something that you've created previously from Power Apps Studio directly, it's not going to work for the refresh. But what you can do is you can open your existing app and then you can create a new one. And the Power Apps Studio is very easy. It makes it very easy to copy and paste. So you can kind of copy and paste between the two. That's the best way that you can make a copy of your older app that will work with the page refresh. And just remember that the table it must be in direct query storage mode for the page refresh to reflect the changes. Otherwise, you have to wait for the next import, the schedule refresh, to work. So as a summary, these are the different paths that I tested and which ones work. The page refresh works and which one it doesn't work. As you can see, 2 of the paths ended up in Smileys and Success. And the key is, again, new app or existing app that you created previously from the service. I have some references here. The Power Apps help files online are tremendously great. You can follow them. I never ran into a case where I followed instructions and it was outdated or I couldn't get to work. There's some videos here that I recommend that you watch. One of my favorites is the one by Shane Young at the end of it, where it walks you through how you can get those X icons and submit icons and all of those. You can get them to work. So it goes into great details about that. And that brings us to the end of this presentation. Thank you so much for joining. Let me know what questions you have.
Okay.
So Ree, back to you.
Okay, so this one came in actually fairly early, like right after you started the demo. Archer would like to know, we have automatic page refresh that supports direct query only in Power BI that was launched. Will that work if I have an old or previously created Power Apps?
So the automatic page refresh from the service, if I remember correctly, that's a tenant setting. So you can enable it. You can enable it. You can enable it on for at the tenant level, so it'll apply to a bunch of reports. So if you have your report automatically refresh, and that is, you can set a minimum interval. So you can say that developers can choose down to every 5 minutes. So 5 minutes and higher, they can choose a refresh. Yes, that will change. That will pick up the changes if you're in direct query every time you refresh, right? This is a slightly different. So this would not wait for that 5-minute interval. It will be instant, so it will instantly refresh your page. Now, there is another issue I ran into with the automatic page refresh that you mentioned. That one caches some of the results. So even though your data source is in direct query, it caches your user selection. So if you pick one item from the filter, and it may cache that for a while. So I don't know if I answered your question. If not, just ping me on Twitter or LinkedIn for more.
It would seem that you did, because he says that's right, tenant settings, and we can apply it as 1 minute. And he says, yes, great answer. So Pedro asks, can we connect any app created in Power App to Power BI reports without creating the app from Power BI?
You can, however, if you want the page refresh part, if you want the page refresh part to work, that's the tricky part. That's not going to work. So you can pick an existing app, and it will modify it so it will add that Power BI integration to it, so you can receive data from it, but the refresh part is not going to work. If you type in the function Power BI integration.refresh and it gives you the red squiggle lines, that means it's not going to work. I've seen some people said ignore that squiggle line, submit it, deploy it to the service, and it will work in the service. However, that was not the case for me.
He says, thank you, perfect. He said, but the refresh is what they need to be created from Power BI, I think.
Yes. So if you want the refresh to work, you need to start from Power BI service. Create a new app. If you create a new app from Power BI service, the refresh is guaranteed to work.
Okay, and that was actually the last of the questions we have. So unless anybody has another one that they want to pop in with really quickly, lots of compliments. Thank you. Great. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So a lot of really positive comments. So we appreciate those. Hold on 1 second. Nobody leave yet. I got to copy email addresses for the 2 people that I'm going to give gift cards to. And that was the 2 people who had the questions. And so that was Archer and Pedro. So the email that you use to register, look for an email that will come probably within the week from Pass HQ. And, oh, hold on. We have, I think I have another one if you want. Someone asks, do you have any resources to build a comment app?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. So I don't think I do. But I recommend you go to the check out all the templates that are available in the Power Apps, in the Learn section of Power Apps. There's a ton of applications already built in that you can, instead of starting from blank, you can use them, and they will. What you can do is you can go back and forth and check and see which functions they've used. So I recommend you check out this section and go through these and see if you can find something that would be helpful to you.
Excellent. Okay. So thank you very much, everybody, for spending an hour with us. Thank you, Shabnam, for presenting to us. Her website is where you can find additional information on what she presented today. And I will do my best to get this video loaded to Pass TV by this afternoon. And Shabnam, I'll send you that link as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a great day, everyone.